About Beer receives underwriting support from Fox Farm Brewery. They understand the importance of independent journalism in the beer space, and their support helps fund original work. Learn how you can affordably support journalists by visiting allaboutbeer.com/support.
Welcome to Drink Beer, Think Beer, the podcast that gets to the bottom of every pint. I'm John Holl. Spring makes me think of Saison. I mean, I think about it all the time, but there's something about spring where the style just feels right. Coming up in a moment is a conversation with Kyle DePietro, the brewer and owner of Saison Brewing in Westport Island, Maine. But first up, two quick event notices. All About Beer is thrilled to once again be participating in the Little Beers Festival. It's hosted by Good Word Brewing in the charming town of Duluth, Georgia. Tickets are now on sale for the March 29th event. It's one of the best beer fests in the country, and you should get your tickets now before it sells out. Go to goodwordbrewing.com/events. And this summer, All About Beer is headed to the Black Fly Beer Camp at Great Camp Sagamore in the Adirondack Mountains. Join us and a host of breweries for a weekend of tastings, meals, education, and fellowship. I'll be there, M. Souter will be there, Nate Schweber will be there, plus so many others. Visit sagamore.org to get your tickets. We've been talking about this for a while, but the fires in Los Angeles last year were devastating. And as per usual, when natural disasters strike, brewers are stepping up with a special beer. Common Space Brewing Company is spearheading the effort, and you can learn more about the beer and how you can help by following the Instagram account at We Love LA Beer. Western North Carolina can also still use support. The North Carolina Craft Brewers Guild is organizing a fundraising effort called Pouring for Neighbors. It benefits breweries that were affected by Hurricane Helene. Learn more about that project and help out by visiting drinkncbeer.org. Additionally, I hope you'll consider supporting All About Beer. There's a number of ways you can do it, through our Patreon, through our underwriting, and through advertising. The only way that we can continue to bring you original shows like this, or the All About Beer podcast and articles on our site, is through your support. Please go visit allaboutbeer.com/support to learn more. And thanks to this episode's sponsor. Today's episode is brought to you by Stomp Stickers. Stomp is a proud member of the Brewers Association that produces a wide variety of printed brewery products, such as beer labels, keg collars, coasters, beer boxes, and much more. Stomp's website features an easy-to-use digital design tool, low quantity orders, fast turnaround times, and free domestic shipping. Visit stompstickers.com and use code ThinkBeer for 15% off of your first order. A few weeks ago, I was in Portland, Maine for the New England Brewers Summit. In advance, I started asking some friends in the area about who I should be talking with, brewers that might be off the beaten path, but that are making exceptional beers. Quickly, Kyle DePietro, the brewer and owner of Saison Brewing, came up as someone to talk with. Saison Brewing is a rustic coastal brewery located on Tarbox Farm on the end of an island. He says he finds inspiration on the farm and in the natural surroundings on the rocky coast. From brewing with ingredients that he grows himself to letting beers age until they're ready, there is a piece to the beer that helps the drinkers relax. And I learned this firsthand while recording this episode and drinking his dandelion Saison. DePietro is a seasoned brewer, having spent a career at a variety of locations, including the Brooklyn Brewery. He's also a part of a family of restaurateurs. So along the way, he's learned about service and flavor and experiences. All of it is on display with his beers and his brewery. Let's go to the island. Here's our conversation. Tell me about the island. Tell me about like where the brewery is, because in my reading of this, I'm fascinated. Like, I love visiting breweries, but it sounds like it might be hard to get out to you.
Yeah, so Westport is this long island. I think it's 11 miles long. It's in the Sheepscot River and then the Back River. So we're kind of next to Booth Bay Harbor. And there's not much going on down there. It's mostly, there's no commercial activity really to speak of. And there's one part of the island that gets really wide, and it's very wooded. We're off a dirt road, off the main road, and we lease a 40-acre farm. and we're located right on the Saison River. So
Wow.
yeah, it's a beautiful spot.
It sounds like it.
It's I love it because we're an hour away from Portland, but when people come down there or when I'm just down there, it's quiet. It feels really remote. We have an oyster farm a quarter mile down the road, and you hear lobster boats while I'm out in the field working. And we had a whale cruise by 2 summers ago.
Wow.
Right in our cove. I didn't actually get to see it, but our neighbor was able to record it.
Does the location suit the beers? Like, are the beers sort of born out of that sense of place?
I think so, very much. We're certified organic, and the beers are inspired by the farm. We collect some wild yeast off the farm. We've got fruit that we grow that goes into the beers, and we're always looking for different herbs we can grow. We did a beer with tangerine marigolds that came out really nice. It's this wonderful, like, citrus flavor that gives off, and so yeah, I think we're super inspired by the farm and nature, and I think when I was a commercial brewer 25 years ago, I was a little turned off by the industrial nature of the process, being in like either a restaurant. I worked at a couple of brew pubs, and then in New York City, a couple breweries there. So I was always turned off by that kind of industrial commercial production facility, but I feel like the farm, we have a greenhouse like right next to the brewery, so I'll multitask while I'm brewing. I go into the greenhouse and start seeds or water stuff, or so it is.
And I love that, right? I mean, do you feel like more at peace as a brewer in your location versus like it seems like life is a little bit slower, so you can make beers that are a little bit more deliberate as opposed to maybe just like feeding the beast or having to fight traffic to get to work that day. And then like the cities are loud and like sort of chaotic and things like that, but yeah.
Definitely. So we lease this farm, and then we own a house that's maybe a mile down the road. And just the walk, as long as the weather's nice, I usually walk, and sometimes I walk my dog to work. And so that time of just walking to work and just the quiet nature. I mean, we have no traffic where we are, and it's definitely and we're a really small brewery, and we also have a farm too that's kind of the supplements our income, so we're not driven by producing lots of beer in large quantities and paying high rent leases to maintain our spot. And so I think it's definitely a much more peaceful process than.
Yeah. So talk to me about being organic. Because I know it's a word that gets thrown around a lot, and maybe not so much in the beer space as much these days as it used to. But there's obviously various levels to it, and I feel like it in some cases can be a buzzword for folks. You're obviously doing it in practice, but I'd love to just know a little bit more, like diving deeper into what it means for you all, and ultimately what gets released into the world.
Sure. So for us, I think we've been an organic farm since 2005, and being certified organic, at least on the farm, is about us just being good stewards to the land and, taking care of the property as well as, the ecosystem, which includes the water, the ocean, our neighbors, and then growing healthy food, obviously. But I think for the brewery, it is a challenge because there is not a huge supply chain for organic ingredients. So we're very limited, but for us, it's not so much the gimmick of having an organic label on the bottle, but it's supporting other farmers who are doing the same thing that we're doing, stewarding the land and taking care of the ecosystem, which really affects everybody. And so we want to support that, and we want to support a local organic food system and production system. So I think that's the most important thing for us as far as being certified organic. And it's not, people don't really talk about certified organic beer very much, and it may not be important to people, but hopefully when they see our product and they become aware of the fact that there are breweries that are going that route. There's a lot of breweries that will use organic ingredients, but the certification is just another step to say that we're only using certified organic ingredients. So,
yeah. So Saisons. I know I asked this like a little bit earlier, but just, it feels like the style suits your setting. How did that develop for the brewery? Is it just what you want to be brewing and what speaks to you as a brewer? Is it did the place sort of dictate it? Is it something else?
Yeah, so I think I've always loved Saisons. When I worked for Brooklyn Brewery in, I guess it was 97, they had they were a distributor as well. So we had we could buy discount beer of all sorts of beer from all over the world, and I came across a beer called Foray, which is brewed by DuPont Brewery in Belgium, and I fell in love with that beer. And I've always loved the style. And then I think that just being a farm and a farmhouse brewery, I think the Saisons and that style of beer just work really well with what we can do. It gives us a lot of creativity as far as ingredients, and I also love the style because it's a beer that evolves, especially in a bottle. Some of our beers, there's this magic moment that happens sometimes 9 months into the bottle where I'll be drinking it the whole way along, and then something happens at that time period where the yeast just expresses itself the way. I'm always kind of searching for this flavor, but it's hard to get to sometimes.
So what is it that you're looking for?
Just the way, if you drink a Saison DuPont, I've watched some YouTube videos on how they condition their beer, and they're very specific on the style of fermenters, and then how they condition their bottles. They'll put them sideways, and there's a specific temperature, and there's a certain yeast expression, I guess, that you get over a certain amount of time that develops, and that's what I'm always searching for, is that wonderful yeast bouquet, if you will. And sometimes we get it, and sometimes, I think the yeast that we use a couple different varieties of Saison farmhouse yeasts, and then we blend them sometimes, and we're always kind of playing with that to see where that sweet spot is, and sometimes it's very hard to reproduce it, even though it's the same yeast. There's a lot of nuance with temperature and bottle conditioning.
I was going to ask, yeah.
So we're always looking for that, chasing that yeast profile. I think for me is what I'm looking for, and then obviously the rest of the beer has to be balanced to help that come out. But it's I'm always chasing that yeast profile.
Are you brewing year round?
Yes. Yep.
So do you find that batches from different times of the year change, or?
I think it's a lot of it has to do with time for me, but we do have a nice kind of temperature controlled room that we can condition.
Okay.
So we're not exposed to
the elements. Yeah. Okay.
I mean, we have a barrel room in our barn that is exposed. So and that there's mixed fermentation in there, and those usually become more expressive as it warms up. And
yeah.
So yeah.
So you're using a lot of ingredients from the farm in your Saisons.
We are, yeah.
We're drinking a Dandelion Saison right now, which I'm really sort of enjoying. So let's sort of unpack this a little bit of brewing with dandelions, because most people see weeds, and I know that it's got a long history of tea and but I think other people have definitely done it before.
It's something that is, in spring when the dandelions come out. We have bees on our farm too, so it's always a kind of exciting time to see the dandelions in the fields. And so this is the second year we've done it, and we've done it two different ways. The first year we dried all the dandelion flowers, and we were really careful to get all the green calyxes off the flowers, which that's where more of the bitter qualities come from the dandelion.
I don't know if I'm familiar with all the parts. So like your calyxes is what you call it?
Yeah,
like the
right below the flower, there's there's a few leaves that
right,
are
kind of pointy.
Yep,
and,
exactly.
Yeah, okay.
Yep. So ideally, if you don't want the bitterness, you get rid of as much green material as possible.
Okay.
But this year we ended up leaving them on and freezing them, so totally different process. So this year the beer is a little bit, it has more of a bitter profile.
Okay.
Than the first year we did it. It was more of like a floral honey kind of note to it.
Interesting.
So I think I prefer the floral honey note.
Okay.
But this, I still enjoy this beer. It's a great beer.
But the bitterness, now that you've said it, it's sort of rattling around in the back of my brain, and I'm liking it because it has almost like a hoppy profile to it.
Yep.
But not, not hops. Like that bitterness has some of that. Yeah.
We use hops in this beer as well. But,
sure.
There's definitely a unique bitterness. Like if you've ever tasted anything in the dandelion family, chicories, you get that bitterness that I really enjoy, and I think it definitely adds a different level of bitterness other than the hops, like you said.
Yeah, and where are you adding it in the brewing process?
Right in the whirlpool. So.
Okay.
Yeah. Right
Have you experimented with other areas, like when
not yet?
Yeah.
No. And I know breweries sometimes will do a full dandelion beer where they're using the root as well in earlier parts of the brewing process, which is pretty cool too. And there's what is it? Scratch Brewing.
Oh yeah,
they have
Illinois.
Yeah, they've got a book and that they put out that kind of has a lot of different brewing ideas throughout the season, and I think they if you roast the dandelion root, you get a kind of a chicory flavor, which like a roasted chicory coffee kind of. So that's something that would be exciting to do in the future. Maybe even with a darker beer, but.
So what else have you been brewing with, ingredients-wise?
We've got a lime basil. So there's this basil that we grow that has a wonderful citrusy kind of smell. It really pops. And,
so not lime and basil,
right?
But
a lot
lime,
of people,
yeah.
we call it lime basil saison. A lot of people think it's lime and basil, but
okay.
But yeah, it's a great type of basil. It's really fragrant. It just has such a clean, wonderful citrus smell to it. So we use that, and that goes in the whirlpool as well. We grow some of our own hops, so we do like an estate hop beer, Cascade and Cashmere. We have grapes that we grow on the farm, a Marquette grape. So that goes into a barrel, into Pinot barrels, and we do a mixed fermentation beer with that. We do strawberries on the farm. We've done rhubarb beers, ginger.
Okay.
I'm sure there's more cranberries, blueberries.
Sure, that's a very Maine thing that you have to do.
Yeah, you got to do that. So we did this blueberry beer that came out last summer. It was a long process. I think we brewed it in 2020 and then just packaged it up last year, and we aged that in Sauv Blanc barrels, and then added tons of blueberries that we picked, and it came out really nice. I was really happy with it.
Nice. Was it just not ready with the aging process, or just?
It could have been ready.
Okay.
It's just out of curiosity, we let it go, and then at some point I was like, now's the time, and but it was very drinkable. The whole way.
Yeah. I'm always fascinated by that when it comes to barrel aging, when brewers know when it's ready for them, and, you've been doing this obviously a long time. Is there something for you, it has that sort of like catching smoke thing. Like I've never been able to
Yep.
get like a definitive answer from folks, and it's
Right.
usually like when you just know when you know, and it's
Kind of, yeah. I mean, we go along and we sample every month or two, and there's definitely a point where you're kind of looking for something that you think it's going to be, and then there's that day where you think it could be ready, and you taste it some more, and you kind of just have to go with it. There's always the possibility that it will develop into something else and even better. So. And when you put a lot of time into a barrel, it's a tough call to make to say now's the time and pull it out and package it. But I think that usually it's you're not going to release a bad beer, and I think that you just got to make that call and go with it. And I found I try to taste barrel beers right around lunch before I've eaten.
Oh, sure.
They say that that's the when your palate is most in tune of what's going on. So
yeah. Talk to me about selling saisons and communicating saisons. I mean, I feel like there are beer fans, longtime drinkers who really appreciate, a green glass bottle, who appreciate, the time and the nuance and, the fun to it. And then the majority of brewery visitors these days are looking for haze, or they're looking for, sweet or something. And, saisons have... I mean, I was talking to Jason Perkins from Allagash a couple weeks ago, and he was like, "Yeah, we don't send any of our, our barrel-aged stuff out anymore, or any of our, wild or anything." And it's just because customer shifts have totally changed. So
Yep.
when you're focused on saisons, what's the, are the people finding you because they're committed, or is it hard to get the word out there? Like, what's the...
I'd say both.
Okay.
I think that people come to us just because we're a brewery on an island, and then they're there, so they have to try these beers.
Sure.
And that can go two ways. One is that people really like the beers and it speaks to them, and then some people are just not into saisons. And I think the palate is pretty amazing when you look at people's reaction to a beer. Sometimes you pour somebody just our regular saison and they love it, and they've it's something that they've didn't know existed, and now that they've found it, their world is opened up. And then there's some people that just don't have a palate for that style of beer, and I think that's with all beers. Some people like hazy IPAs, and some people can't stand them. So
Sure.
I think that it is harder though to sell a saison, especially if you're not there to walk people through it. And I think some people don't even know how to say saison.
Sure.
And it's kind of a European old world style that I think takes a little bit more marketing and education.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And are you trying to get people, if they're buying it from you, or they get something like... I feel like there was a time where a lot of us were buying beers and then putting them down for a while, cellaring them. Like when you finally package something and it's out there, do you want it consumed as quickly to at the time of purchase? Is it dealers? Like, what's your...
Yeah, I say a lot of people ask me on the shelf life, and really I think I like letting it go in the bottle for a while.
Okay.
Because I feel like that is the magic. That's where the magic happens. So yeah, I tell people that most of our beers, like they're not very hop forward, so you're not going to have this beer that you wanted to taste one way degrade over time because of the hop profile changing. So for us, it's more about the yeast developing over time, and so I tell people, there's no real shelf life. I mean, I'm
Sure.
sure there is, but we've kept beers that we packaged from when we first opened, and I thought they were still great. And so, I'm sure a lot of it will depend on how you cellar the beer. And,
Sure.
So, yeah.
Are there conversations around? I always think of, like, for me, Saison is what I have on Thanksgiving Day, and certain meals, and depending obviously on what else you've put into it, but just like a Saison DuPont is perfect on Thanksgiving Day because it just blends with a lot of the flavors on the table, and I think about it just it being a food beer. Do you have those conversations with folks as well?
Yeah, all the time. I think Saisons are they're very versatile as far as pairings. So especially when I'm talking to restaurants that want to start carrying our beer, I do have those conversations all the time. And I think with seafood, with most foods, I think the Saisons, there's a nice bitterness without overwhelming the palate with something super hoppy and juicy. And so yeah, we talk about that a lot.
As you think about, you're talking about brewing and then going over to the greenhouse and setting seeds. Are you thinking about future ingredients for beers?
Always.
Okay.
Yeah.
So where is your thought right now? Where is the creativity?
So we've been wanting to do a husk cherry beer. I don't know if you've ever had.
No, I don't know what that is.
So it's related to tomato or tomatillo.
Okay.
And it's in the Solanaceae family, and they have these little paper skins, and it's like a tiny cherry tomato, and they've got this wonderful sweet, like pineapple tropical flavor.
Huh.
So
husk cherry.
Yeah. If you they're not really found commercially too much.
I was gonna say, yeah.
But if you go to like a farmer's market, I'm sure in summertime that your people at your local farmer's market will have a few.
Okay.
So they're wonderful. We've always grown them for our kids, and they're great snacks. And so I think those could work great in a beer, just giving that tropical fruit flavor. If we can get that out of it,
Yeah. And the acidity is.
It's pretty mild for.
Okay.
Yeah. Yep. So yeah. And then there's different herbs. I like a lot of like the citrus herbs, like lemon balm.
Sure.
What else have we been thinking about brewing with? Elderflower. I've done elderflower beers before, but nothing commercially.
Okay. What does that give off?
It's kind of like almost like a cherry flavor. That's what I get out of it. Yeah. Subtle cherry.
Okay.
Floral cherry flavor.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anything else that sort of comes to mind as where you're looking to go with it?
Rose hips, sumac.
Okay.
Those are some good ones. Coriander. We grow our own coriander as well and have used it many times.
Sure.
What else? I'd like to do more fruit, more grapes.
Yeah.
I like the idea of blending grapes with Saisons.
Why?
Because I think Saisons are as far as the beer spectrum, I think Saisons lean towards wine a little bit more than any other beer style because of their evolution. And I have heard that some of the older Saison yeast can be traced back to yeast from grapes, wine skin grape or yeast. So yeah, I think it's fun to blend those two, the grapes, and especially when you add oak in there. When you put it in a barrel, you get that oak and the yeast from the Saison yeast, and then some of that grape quality. That not so much the sweetness of the grapes, but just the kind of essence.
I like that. So for a while now, I've been asking folks when I sit down with them what we call the green door question. and there's a television show called The Good Place, and in the final season they introduce a concept of a green door where the characters can walk through it and be anywhere they want, doing whatever they want to do. And so if we had a green door on our plane of existence and this conversation ended and you could walk through it and be at any pub or any brewery anywhere in the world, where would you want to go? Who would you want to be with? And what would you like to be drinking?
Oh, that's a tough one. Any pub or brewery? Gosh. I think I'd like to be traveling somewhere, I think. And I think some of my favorite experiences have been finding a pub in some other country and having a beer and meeting some random person and talking about life over some random beer.
Okay. I like that. So people can come and visit you.
Yes.
Okay.
So yeah, we have a nice tasting room. It's rustic. It's mostly outside. We have like a covered barn area. So we're seasonal, obviously.
I was going to say, January is probably not the time to come. And
we did some events in our greenhouse, which was really nice. And but because of where we're at, the roads get a little dicey in the wintertime, and it's tough for people to make it out to the end of the island. But in summertime, it's beautiful. We've got music. We've got food trucks. Our oyster farmer neighbor brings oysters all the time.
Oysters and Saisons.
Yeah, can't go wrong. We've got music and just the view of the Saison River. Basically, our tasting room looks out over one of our fields, and then the river is beyond that.
All right. I have to put you guys on the list because this is the fun beer to be drinking. It's fun to be talking with you, and now I just got to go experience it in person.
Yeah. We've got a guest cabin, so let me know.
All right. Thanks so much. And thanks for sitting down today. I appreciate it.
Yeah, no problem.
Questions, comments, guest suggestions, email me, johnholl@allaboutbeer.com. That's JOHNHOLL. I do my best to respond to every email. The only way we can keep doing this show, and I mean it, or our other shows, or pay writers for original content, is with your help. Please visit allaboutbeer.com/support to learn more. A reminder, go visit allaboutbeer.com where you can check out the podcast page, the merch page, and read great new content, as well as the archives going back to 1979. And drop us a follow on social media @allaboutbeer. Before we go, here's a word from this week's sponsor. Don't stop at just stickers and labels. Stomp Stickers has everything you need for festival season. From canopy tents to flags to table covers and banners, it's all waiting for you on their website. Check out their brewery section for the full lineup. A quick reminder about the All About Beer podcast channel. Search and subscribe on your podcast platform of choice. Steal This Beer has new episodes every Monday. The BYO Nano podcast comes out on the 15th of every month. And ProBrewer.com each week is the home for original articles from the All About Beer team. On this show, Nate Schweber does our music, Jeff Quinn designed our logo, and I'm John Holl. New episodes release every Wednesday, and that's when I'll be back again to drink beer and to think beer.